So I am honored to be joined by you two guys. Nice to see you all, like literally see you all.
Hi.
Josh, Mike, how are you? How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
So we're on here because we want to talk about not only how you all have been doing during the quarantine, but also Black gay stuck at home. So this is going to be a fun conversation. Keep it light in light of everything that's going on in the world right now. Mike has me feeling funny about lifting up this water and showing what the
You gotta
brand is.
hydrate.
I'm not trying to show the brand now that he said what he said. I'm like, that's a good point.
Your hydration is very
Listen,
important.
they are not paying you for free promo. I'm just trying to tell you.
This is true. This is true. Well, first of all, Josh, welcome to the healing space. This is your first time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. I'm really happy to be here and I'm appreciative of y'all's support, for real, for real.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike is like THS family. So yeah, all of the misfits know about Mike.
Ah.
But I'm very happy to have you both here. Definitely. I think that what you guys are doing with Black Gay Stuck at Home is phenomenal. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. So the first question I wanted to ask you both is, how have you been managing being stuck at home right now? So I guess I'll go to Mike first, because it's not like we haven't had the conversation here on THS before.
Josh can go first since he's new to the show.
But I mean, most of the misfits already know, if they've listened to the podcast, how you've been doing. So yours won't be as long as Josh's.
Want the fresh meat. Come on, fresh meat. I'm stuck at home trying to make the best of this situation. Working from home, lots of work from home, doing everything in this spot from home. But blessed. I'm blessed. I'm grateful and I'm blessed to be able to work, to still help people, to do what I love to do, honestly. To still have community of people. To me, I mean, pretty much is finding pockets of joy right now. It's finding pockets of joy. It's just what I've been trying to tell the people.
Yeah.
Staying in that space.
And what about you, Josh?
It goes and comes, right? Like some days are better than others. And I feel like, well, in all transparency, I came home to North Carolina. I was in DC, and so I'm home in North Carolina with my mother, which is its own sort of process of being stuck at home, not only by yourself, but you got a roommate, and your roommate's your mama. But it's been very humbling, to be quite honest. I think there's a lot of like sort of moments for reflection that I didn't necessarily have embedded in my day before, and so it's been interesting. And some days I think are better than others, but it's about finding those joyful moments too that I think sort of make the hard days, or like the not knowing when it's going to be over,
Absolutely
kind of difficult.
Now, tapping into what you said as far as joy, how important has it been for the both of you to be able to find that joy? Because in a lot of conversations, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of conversations I have with people, they often lean into the negatives of what's been going on as far as COVID, as far as, like the racism that we've always known was here in America, but a lot of other people who are waking up to it, a lot of people are leaning very heavily into that. So how important is it for you guys when it comes to joy to really tap into that? Either of you can take it first.
I think joy is part of resistance. I think joy is part of, when I think about protests, when I think about times of adversity, I think that joy has to be a component of it. And sometimes the joy comes easily, and sometimes you have to go find the joy. And so for me, it's been a much more intentional part of my day or week to go and say, like, I need to make sure I have space for myself, and that space needs to be joyful or celebratory, or something that feels like, I don't know, you can't let folks forget that we're still here, we're resilient folks, our communities keep going, and we have to celebrate that. And so I think that's why joy has to be a factor in that sort of day-to-day for me, because otherwise I know I will, as a person, sort of sink into the negative, or not see the positive as easily. So I think it's almost equally as important to take critique and protest and movement building and pair it with celebration and joy, because I think we we speak louder when we amplify our voices in both of those kinds of ways.
Absolutely. Balance is needed.
Yes.
Always balance is needed. And what about you, Mike?
Oh my God. So there's this really great 8-minute audio snippet of Mark Thompson from Prepster UK that I think everybody should listen to because it talks about joy and finding those moments of joy. And it's kind of like an uplifting thing for me, like in moments when I get sad, because I'm working on balance. I think the key word for me this month is balance. June was a very heavy month. And it was a lot of doing the work, running with my head down is how I called it. And finally having a moment to look up and being like, oh, okay, we've created this thing. This thing is happening. I'm in the middle of this thing. And I haven't really got a moment to like take those times to celebrate it. And specifically 1 and 2. I think doing 1 and 2 with Danye Arlove's tremendous play. But I was like, I'm in this thing. And, you know, you and I were talking through it, and there was moments just laying in the bed and being like emotionally drained. But looking up after the fact of being like, you did it. And like me and Josh always are like that. We're like, oh, okay, friend, we did it. So it's been important to me to balance it with the Black trans murders, with Rayshard Brooks right up the street from me, the protests with so much Black trauma and Black pain. And I also feel like I don't want to say the world, but I also feel like sometimes within the power structures that are built on white supremacy, that a lot of them get off on our Black trauma, our Black pain. And that's essentially what it is to me of watching Black men and Black women and Black trans people die, you know, repeatedly in this news cycle, is that there has to be a moment, like Josh said, of resistance that's joyful, that's happy, that's upbeat, that's saying that, fuck y'all did all of this to us and I'm still here. I'm still surviving and thriving. And we are not gonna come out of the other side of this the same way that we came into this shit. So y'all need to go ahead and get ready for it. So it's a balance of finding, like I say, those pockets of joy, but also feeling my feels when I need to feel them. But practicing joy and gratitude. Thank you, therapy. It's also teaching me that.
Come on.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Weekly. It's a blessing.
So that's a beautiful transition. Thank you for that, Mike, because that goes beautifully into my next question, which is about mental health. So THS is a mental health podcast. So I wanted to check in with the both of you when it comes to your mental health. How have you both been doing in regards to what's going on in the world right now? Mike first.
Yeah, me and my therapist are talking pretty much regularly. Pretty much talking regularly, as much as I can. Finding ways to, like I say, take into account all of the great things that are happening. So even in my journal, I'm doing gratitude practices. So I'm trying to, and I'm holding myself accountable by saying this out loud, I'm trying to, at least for the next month, write down 3 things that I'm grateful for every morning. Because I heard someone on one of these things that said, we always grab our phone first in the morning when we don't even know if all our limbs work. And I felt so guilty because I'm like, I don't even know if my legs work, but I know I didn't reach over here and grab this phone because it's instinct. So I want to start my mornings off of practicing gratitude to take care of my mental health, to take inventory of all the things that I am grateful for. And I think it's just therapy. I think just therapy has been the major thing, and more stuff will come back to me as soon as I let the question go. But I think I'm privileged, and I say this all the time to everybody. I am privileged, and I'm grateful and thankful as well to be able to afford healthcare and a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can get on my soapbox about the U.S. healthcare system, but I am grateful. I'm grateful to have a therapist who is culturally competent and well-versed in being Black and gay. So yes, thank God.
Absolutely. And to what you said, as far as the phone in the morning, I had to make a conscious decision to not do that. Because like you said, it's nature. It's how we are. We wake up in the morning, we are immediately go reaching for it. So what I do, and it's definitely far from perfect, I'll go to reach and then I'll pull myself back. I lay on my back and I meditate, you know? And I know for me, taking a lot of slow, deep, intentional breaths, that helps me in the morning. You know, focus on that first. Make sure you're pouring into you first. And then if we're being honest, reach for the phone. So the work now is, okay, allow yourself to get up out of the bed, do a few things, you know, the phone will be there for you, you know? So it's a step-by-step process. So thank you for mentioning that as well, Mike. Josh, what about you?
So I also have a therapist, which is a blessing and a gift. And there's always something to talk about for sure, but I have a therapist that also gives me space to not talk if I just don't want to. I had a therapy session one day where he was like, if you just want to sit here and we can look at each other, I was like, can we do that for like 5 minutes? Like, you know, like, so for me, it's been largely around advocating for myself and my needs. I think it's easy to sort of like get caught up in, I don't know, the frenzy and urgency of everything that's happening right now. And so being able to clearly articulate for myself and for others what I need has been a really big part of like strengthening my mental health. And a lot of that ends up like manifesting as like boundary setting. So like the idea of ending a work day at a time every single day, or the idea of like having a hard stop is something that's really foreign to me, especially in a climate where everybody's working from home, which sort of subconsciously sends messages that you are now accessible all the time. And that means that you can email me and to send me messages all the time and I'm expected to answer or something. So that's been harder for me to navigate, especially now. So I was getting overwhelmed all the time because I felt like there was no end of the day. And so that was starting to suck the joy out of the things that I love, right? So I had to be much more intentional about saying my weekends are my weekends, or like my day ends at this day today or this time today. And then, you know, Black Day Stuck at Home helps because like, I know I got to be off at a particular time because Friday night's gonna happen. So I'm gonna do that, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know, it's been interesting trying to navigate it. And so I think my mental health has been much more of a priority these days because of it. And then also just trying to figure out when to take my damn vacation time, because I think we've somehow fooled ourselves into thinking that, you know, we don't deserve vacation time in a pandemic because we're all at home. But like taking time off has been something that I'm actively trying to tell myself to do, because even if I'm only going from the bed to the living room, not having a full day sometimes and having the space to go do the things that you need to do for yourself is a really valuable tactic in keeping on and moving. So those are the things I think I've sort of encountered, but largely I think it's been an interesting sort of journey and stuck inside the house and trying to manage mental health at the same time.
Listen, I'm listening to you and I'm like, you've spoken my life so much. Like you have so spoken my life. I'm listening to you and I'm like, the way that my anxiety has showed up so much in 2020 in ways that because I mean, for years, I didn't even acknowledge that I had anxiety issues, you know? And then it was as if, and I've talked to Mike about this, once I crossed over 40, it just completely changed, looked totally different. And so I've had to completely change the way that I operate in my day-to-day with my job because of it, you know? Because with my work phone, like I was so excited when I first got this job, because in the life coach work that I've done, it's always been people who are closer to my age, you know, single couples, all that stuff. But even though they had different things they were dealing with, including mental health issues, it didn't look the same as working with young adults, you know, 18 to 24, it looked totally different. So these clients that I had before I started this job, they understood, here's our session. Unless it's an emergency, there is no calling you, you know? Whereas with this job, it's like, I'm just going to call you because I don't have anybody else to talk to.
Right.
So initially I was excited, like, oh, I love this. I love like really showing up in my work for these people. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm passionate about. But after a while, it began to really, really wear on me. And especially in 2020, it's really worn me down. So I finally had to get to the point over the last 2 months, finally turning my phone off. So, you know, on weekends, and I don't think I even told you that, Mike, but the work phone gets cut off on weekends now. Totally cut off. And after 4 o'clock on weekdays, it's put on silent. The only time I pay attention to it, each of us life coaches on campus has 1 week where we're on call. So that's 24 hours. But after that week, we're good. And our supervisor is like, no, listen, look out for yourself. Like, whatever it is you have to do, those kids know there's somebody else who they can go to, Not only that, but we also have RAs and security on campus as well. So it's like, no, look out for yourself, because I was starting to get sick, and things were happening to me where I'm like, this doesn't normally happen to my body. What's going on? So I had to really show up for myself. So when you said that, I'm like, that's true, as well as vacation time. So I don't think I've ever used as little vacation time as I have since having this job.
Yep.
I think I have maybe a month's worth of vacation that I need to take right now. And all of my coworkers are like, if you don't just take off, I'm like, first of all, where I'm gonna go? Because it's like any place that I go, once I get there, most of the places are shut down. But, like my best friend was saying, he's like, but still you're getting away. You're allowing yourself to go somewhere, even if it's just when you leave out of your hotel, you're just sitting on the beach and that's it,
That's what my therapist told me. Listen, She said, even if you just drive to the beach and look at the water, that's a vacation.
Yes. Listen.
So I'm contemplating mine. Josh knows that too, because we talk about vacation. I'm like, I have finally built a vacation into my calendar. Jesus.
Yep.
So I'm going home. I'm going back to the DMV in September, but I want something before that. Like, I'm like, and I'm going to be there for a while, but I'm like, even before that, like when Mike just said, even if you're just driving past the water, I'm sitting here like, I'm about to take myself to Savannah. Like, because I enjoyed it when I went before. So, I'm like, just go down there and allow yourself, because I miss being on the coast. As somebody who grew up on the coast, I miss the water. It's probably one of the things I miss the most since moving to Atlanta, is just being near water all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Florida.
Yes.
I don't know, something about this whole, like, I don't know, I've never been someone for nature. Like, I've been very like a city indoor, like, hustle and bustle kind of person. I mean, which is funny considering I grew up in like rural North Carolina, but I have been so in touch with my like nature-y side since I have been in this pandemic, because, it seems like sometimes the safest place is in the middle of nowhere and in the middle of the woods or on a beach somewhere by yourself, or, so it's been interesting because I think a lot of folks are connecting in a new way to like outside.
Absolutely.
Because we can't do it as much. So it's like, oh wait, I can't go to the mall, but I can go to the beach, or I can go to a lake, or I can go hang out in the middle of the woods or something like that. So like, it's interesting to like rediscover that part of yourself,
I don't think I've seen so many people riding bikes, taking walks, and especially being plant parents as much as I have during quarantine.
The nurseries are thriving.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. But okay, so let's get into Black Gay Stuck at Home. So I wanted to ask you guys, how did you come up with the idea? Share with the Misfits exactly what it is and how you all came up with the concept for Black Gay Stuck at Home.
I love when Michael tells this story, so Michael's gonna tell the story.
So, where do I begin? Gather around, kids. It's story
I was about to say, it sounds like story time. Yes.
Grab your cocktails, as we love at Black Gay Stuck at Home. So Black Gay Stuck at Home are, we should explain to the people, right? What Black Gay Stuck at Home is?
Yeah.
So Black Gay Stuck at Home is Josh and I don't even know if this is grammatically correct. Baby, where we scream movies. See, this is the Virgo in me coming out, because now that you said that this was recorded, now I'm like, So anyway, Black Gay Stuck at Home. So Patrick Ian Polk had posted a clip from Punk's on his Facebook page. I forgot now what it was in reference to, but one of my friends commented under it on Facebook, because, Facebook is all in our lives now. So it's like so-and-so commented on whatever. So I go to look at it, and he's like, oh my God, I've never seen the movie. I've always wanted to see the movie. And so I'm like, cool. Well, I've got the movie at the house, and like, we should totally do a movie night, except we're stuck in quarantine. So I had posted like as a joke that we should do like a virtual movie night of punks, like who wants to do it? And so Josh had also had punks in his spirit and it was on his heart. So he came across the post and he saw it. And I was like, and he was like, oh, are you serious about doing like a virtual movie night? All of this kind of stuff. I was like, let's do it. So let's make it happen. And really, I think it was a week, right? So we did it like all in a week. We were like, let's totally make this thing happen. We're going to do like a virtual movie night because so many people haven't seen the movie.
Right.
And so we were Facebook messaging each other, trying to like, because Josh's like, well, what should we call this? And so I'm like, I have absolutely no clue what we should call this thing. And so somehow we started like talking, and I'm like, I think it was the Anthony Anderson gif where he's on the couch curled up crying, if everybody knows that one. And I was like, I'm black, gay, and stuck at home or something. Somehow that came, and we were like, this has a nice little ring to it. Let's make this bad boy happen. And literally in a week, we put it together. Josh is wonderful with the graphics, as I'm wearing one of his designs that you can get from his website. So Josh put all the graphics together. We came out, we promoted it. Patrick got wind of it, and Patrick started reposting it. And the cast and the crew, everyone kind of came in like the very first time. And we were like, well, we're stuck in quarantine. So if he knows that we're doing this, like, what is it going to hurt us to shoot an email? Like, it doesn't cost us anything, right?
Right.
And so at least we can do is ask him to come. So we asked him to come to screen the movie, and we just thought he was going to come in and just say, hey, bye, thank y'all, love you, good night, Beyonce, mic drop. And he ended up staying afterward for like 30 to 45 minutes. And he as well stayed in the chat, because it's a live screening with the interactive chat. And I'll be telling y'all, it's like AOL chat back in the 90s. Sometimes you can't keep up. Everything is going so quickly.
That conversation is no joke. No joke.
It goes by so quick. And he was dropping gems just throughout the movie about getting it made, like the history of casting everyone and all of those things. And we're sitting there, me and Josh sitting there interviewing like Patrick and Polk. And I'm just like, wow, like we have a thing. Like this is really gonna be a thing. But I think it really, of anything, it speaks to like, for me, a lot of the work that I do, as you know, with Counter Narrative is focused on Black gay men, health and wellness with the YouTube show Revolutionary Health and taking care of it. But so much of it really is, for me, of creating community for people, especially Black people of color, Jesus, Black queer people, Black queer people who, you know, are self-isolating or in quarantine, that they may not have a community or they can't see their friends. And what better way for us to like community organize and kind of combat some of that loneliness that people may feel in those spaces, and give them a bit of history that they didn't know. And especially from the filmmakers, and to give them opportunities for like screenwriters and filmmakers that we had that came to like the last screening, that came in and just got to ask questions about making film and where do you get the characters from. So that's really the origin of how it started. But I think after me and Josh did like the first one, that had maybe like 400 or 500 people that came with us the first night while we screened Punks. What's behind me right here? You know, we can promote that. We can promote Patrick. After we did it, we were like, okay, so like this is a thing. And so many of the really beautiful messages that we got from people, I think really like caused us to continue to do this, and puts the fuel in us, because this has become something really, really special, really special to us.
Absolutely. So what has it been like for you, Josh? What has the experience been like?
You know, I think it's been a bit of a whirlwind, because I think we initially thought, oh, this will be really cute. 10 of our friends, like, first of all, we have to clarify, Michael and I have never met before, right? So that's another sort of like layer on top of this that people don't realize, is that like, we're like longtime Facebook and Twitter and Instagram followers of each other, but like have never met in person, still have not met in person, right? So
When Mike first told me that, I was like, "What? Y'all never met? Would have never known. Would have never
Right.
known."
I
And so
was
it's
running
been like
through
a
Amsterdam wearing your shirts and all that kind of stuff.
right,
I'm
right.
like,
Like
yeah.
so, but we've always sort of like known of each other, like, you know, that kind of thing. But so that's been an unintended sort of blessing in all of this, is that like now we've sort of been able to cultivate a friendship because we talk all the time now
Right.
about all of the things. But we never anticipated that it was going to be 500 people who wanted to come and watch, you know, punks with us. And people were asking, when are we going to do this again, or, you know, like what's the next one, and that kind of stuff. And so I think it ended up being like necessary for us to fill the void, because like Michael said, everybody was stuck. We're still stuck. And so people needed community. And I myself feel it now, being in rural North Carolina, where there are not a lot of like open queer folks, let alone black and queer folks here. And so it became even more important for me to have a community where there was no physical community happening. And so a lot of people do come into the room every other week, and it's likely that they're like doing this all alone. And so I think that's reason enough for why we kept going.
Right.
And we've had a consistent sort of like, you know, level of engagement with folks ever since. It's always, you know, sometimes some weeks are 400 registrants, sometimes they're 150, but like we have a steady flow of people who come every 2 weeks. Well, some people have been every single time. And so, you know, it's kind of awesome to think that we've unintentionally created a space for folks, but it's an important space for a lot of people who do come. And the funny thing is that, you know, sometimes people come in, we've heard that people come in to commemorate, you know, anniversaries of happy things. Sometimes people are coming in because they're grieving, like loss, or remembering something or someone that they've lost recently. So they'll come and use the space for whatever they need it to be. Some people come in and say like, I had a friend that said that he was like, you know, going to have a quarantine date in the room. So like, it's sort of like, you never know who's coming in and why they're coming in the room, but we're just like, I think, blessed to be able to provide the space, and then also amplify the voices of Black gay filmmakers and queer filmmakers who have been able to give us these wonderful gems of movies, and then we get to sort of bring light to them in a new kind of way. Because we're not just showing any old thing either, right? So that's been a really sort of great added benefit, is to be able to like show these awesome movies, and then also have a byproduct of that also being that sometimes the people hop in the room like Patrick did, and we've seen that happen over and over and over again. So it grew organically. We've never sort of said like, we're gonna like, you know, this is all on 10 cents in a Zoom account, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's been really cool so far.
As one of those people who has actually been in the room for every single one, I have to say that it's an awesome experience to be able to see everybody together, you know? And as Mike has said earlier, the conversation, listen, I tell people all the time, don't private message me, because I'm more than likely am not going to see anything that you say to me.
That's real.
I really do try to keep up with the people.
But going into the next question, it has really created some seriously memorable moments, you know, like you all were saying, as far as the people who show up, you know, the creators, the actors who are in the movies. It's wonderful to see them not only come and join, but to contribute so much toward the conversation afterwards, interacting with people in the chat room while it's happening, you know? I think that that's beautiful. And with that part being said, going into the next question, what have been some of the most memorable moments for you all in regards to Black, Gay, and Stuck at Home? What are some of the moments that have really stuck out to you from all of the experiences that you've had so far?
I cry. Okay.
I could be crying every week, every other week.
I
love it.
I am here for Black men feeling emotions, because honestly, truly, from like the bottom of my heart, like there are so many memories that I have, but I think the one that just still resonates with me is the first time.
Yeah.
I think as a Black gay man who loved the fuck out of Noah's Ark, of wanting to be on the show, of wanting to have a set of friends like that, of wanting to meet Patrick Ian Polk. And I've actually met him in person, but like actually wanting to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with him and talk about like his process and all of these things. To have him sit in the room like that first time with us and just tell the history behind it and how he got Punks made. And it came out in 2000 when it wasn't popular and lucrative and a moneymaker to make these kind of films, but to tell those stories about how Babyface and his wife at the time, Tracy Edmonds, were on board. And they really put a lot of love, heart, and soul in that movie. To be sitting there and talking to him with so many people, and to like be realizing that I'm geeking on the inside, but I have to hold it in.
Yeah.
I think the first time, and now that I actually think about it, I was wearing a Sade Love Deluxe shirt the first time. So I'm just gonna put my Sade quote in there. It's never as good as the first time. And they're totally random. It's how my mind works, people. But yes, I think that probably for me has been the most memorable time. And I also think, there's so many memories. I don't want to take any from you, Josh. But I think that has been the best one. The messages I get from people from other countries as well, I think are so memorable for me because they stay up late.
Yeah.
From the UK, from Africa, we had somebody from Ireland that stay up late with us because they have this craving and this desire to see these films and to experience community with us. And y'all see me crying. I'll be crying at the end of all of them.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I think like certainly when people pop up, that's like always memorable. Patrick popping up was beyond, I think, in either of our sort of wildest dreams, especially on the first go round.
Yeah.
He came back again to hop in the chat for the Noah's Ark one. So like he's posted about a lot of the ones that we've been doing. He posted about Jackie's Back the other day, like, so I think like he's really been kind of supportive of what we're doing. But I think I think the chat is a thing that I just can never wrap my head around. But when people do hop in, they drop really sort of important things that they've never been covered in interviews because nobody's ever thought to interview these people about their films in depth. I think about Nathan Hill Williams coming in and talking about Dirty Laundry and talking about how this role was not meant for, Jennifer Lewis to play. It was first casted with Sheryl Lee Ralph in it. Like, we would have never known those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But for like my gay ass, that's a big thing, right? Like, so now I'm going to sit there and watch, the film and be like, I wonder what Sheryl Lee Ralph would have done with this or something,
Yeah.
So those kinds of moments, I think, I didn't expect to have a moment with Paris is Burning because it's such an important and sort of like notable film. But the idea that we showed Paris is Burning and there were people in the room who had never seen it before. And so we were their first time like watching such an iconic film meant a lot to me. Like ushering in sort of a younger generation of folks who I think had never seen that. So that was really powerful. Every time it's something new, to be quite honest. Even the last go round with, we showed a lesser known film called Chocolate Babies, and Stephen Winter, the film's writer and director, hopped in, but then we had the cast come in, but then the cast came in with all of their experiences. And so we had Michael Lynch, who plays one of the sort of, a trans character in the film and is a trans woman, talk about like her like history with Marsha P. Johnson. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like, oh yeah, me and Marsha used to kick it. We was in the same performance troupe. Like, who are these people coming in to like share this space with us, right? Like, what a blessing it is to be able to do that over and over and over again. And so there's always been, a new thing to be like WTF about. So yeah.
My most memorable which I did not expect. If you would have asked me this before the movie premiered, it definitely wouldn't have been this. But my most memorable would be Chocolate Babies. And I did not expect it. And I talked to Mike about it, and I said I hadn't heard of it before. And when it first started, I was sitting there telling Devin, Mike, I was like, I don't know. If you could have seen the look on my face, Josh, I'm looking like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. This is rough.
Yeah.
Like, they're going all in with this movie.
Yeah.
But the further along it went, I'm like, wow. First of all, act. First of all, y'all better act. That was first, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's my favorite chat. It's my favorite chat of all of the ones that you all have done. Like, for me, there were just so many layers. And being in all of the movies that you guys have shown, I've seen all of the chats afterwards. And the amount of questions that came out of this last one, people just kept on knocking off more and more questions. And the fact that none of them needed to leave. All of them were like, we're here, we're answering the questions, we're engaging, I love when the people who are a part of the films congratulate you guys or let you guys know that they've checked out other ones and that they've heard about you, I love hearing that. I love that Patrick came back for both. And that it was no thing. It wasn't that he was like, I had to clear this off of my schedule to make sure that I was here, So that means a lot to me to see that everybody understands how important this is. Because some people could be like, this is a fly-by-night situation, whatever, girl.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to really care about this. But that people are so invested, And I was saying to Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no, it's like intergenerational too, right? So like there's something about, I had a moment in the last screening where I was like, wow, like these are, I don't like to throw around the word elder unless people are receptive to that kind of word. Right. Not everybody wants to be called an elder, but like those are some of our elders. Those are the folks that came before.
Yeah.
And so there's this interesting swath of like demographic in the room. It's like you got, young folks who've never seen any of these films who were like, babies. And then you got, folks who were in the brother to brother chat. There was a whole conversation around like, what does singleness mean when you've reached a certain age in your life as a gay man? That was a really important conversation that needed to be had, and it was happening in the chat, right? Yes. So like, we don't often get that kind of intergenerational conversation and connection, or it's a little bit less pointed. Like, we get to put people in a room together and do that, right? But when we go and socialize and go to the club and we go here and we go, to the bar and all this other kind of stuff, like we don't oftentimes get that same sort of like genuine interaction. So it's sort of like nice to be able to facilitate those kinds of conversations.
Absolutely. So sticking with what we've been saying as far as the chat and, facilitating those conversations and things of that nature, how important is community to the existence of Black Gay Stuck at Home?
Ooh.
Everything. I think it's everything. It's our foundation. It's really everything, because of course if nobody comes to see the movie except for me and Josh, it wouldn't be a thing. But I think, like Josh was saying about the chat, I'm a student as well. So I wanna forever learn about new things. And people come in and they drop books, they drop other film recommendations that we should do. But as far in terms of like community and gathering, some of these people have been here every week. They send us messages, DMs. I don't want to call anybody's name out just for their protection, but there's people that constantly hit us up on like the Instagram page, like, hey, I'm here, I'm in the waiting room, like you saw me last week. And I'm like, my bad. But even kind of like starting that thing now where we do kind of the roll call of like, where y'all from, where y'all at, and really watching people link up through like the chat. Like, it's like, oh, this is cute. Like people that are in the same city, in the same space. And I think sometimes, like one time people were like, we went to the same high school, or wow, I know this person from the film. Those things happen all there in the chat. And it wouldn't happen, of course, if these people wouldn't be there and come. But I also want to say again is that it's also a learning experience for the people that come to the movies, that are filmmakers, that are screenwriters, that are actors, that you don't get this opportunity. Like, again, I don't know just by walking down the street and being like, hey, Patrick, can I have 30 minutes of your time?
Right.
If he would have stopped. I wouldn't have got, to talk to Alex Langford, even though we worked with Counter Narrative Project together, who knew Marlon Riggs and Essex Hempfield. And how else would I have been able to kind of access, these people within building this community? And I think the chat lets us do that. The movie lets us do that. So community to me is kind of the foundation. I think we tried one time not to have the chat on when we had the spam bot incident, when we got spammed, y'all. Somebody came in there and was talking about fuck Donald Trump and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay.
I thought it was performance art. I was like,
right. I was like, okay.
But then it got weird. It got really weird.
It did get really weird.
Then it turned to the left and they started like spamming the chat. So we were like, maybe we'll just kind of like turn the chat off. And the people were like, no, do not turn the chat off at all.
They were like, we'll wait. You can figure it out.
Right. We will wait. We will get a new link. We'll come back. And I think that means a lot to us as well, because like me and Josh are sitting there like, what the fuck are we going to do? But just to still have like that affirmation and everything from people are like, no, y'all are doing something. We want this. We want to be here. People are looking forward to this every 2 weeks. So I do. I think it's just the foundation for me of what Black Gay Stuck at Home is about.
That's real. I just want to sort of also like, I don't know. At one point I was just like, what if nobody comes anymore, right? Like, because I think that when we started it, it was at the peak of everybody, like, literally every other commercial was stay your ass at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the message. And so as we know, in this country, we are not under a unified plan of attack on this pandemic. And so state by state and city by city and community by community around the country, phase 1, 2, 3, 4 started to roll out. And so we weren't seeing 500 people necessarily hopping into every single one as like, the outside opened up again. And so I was just like, I wonder if this is going to be like null and void in 2 weeks. But no, people are still showing up. And so I was like, well, there must be something here outside of a pandemic and the idea of being stuck at home. Sure, the idea was birthed in the necessity of community in a time when we were all stuck in the house. But if you take away the pandemic and those circumstances, there's still a need there, and there's still a community there, folks that want to gather, talk to one another, laugh, decompress, escape whatever sort of troubles they are, experiencing on a day-to-day. And, take 2.5 hours on a Friday night. And the fact that people are taking that time with us is just, I don't take that for granted. So
absolutely. On a Friday night, say that.
On a Friday night.
Say that.
I was like, well, should we change the day? Like, are people going to want their Fridays back? Do I want my Fridays back? And I was like, no.
With verses and drag race.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It's twofold. On one hand, you could stay in the house and still have other options of things to watch. That's one. But then two, if we're being completely honest with ourselves, a lot of people have already started leaving out of the house again. Yes. So Fridays are still a time to leave out for a lot of people, and yet people still stay home to watch with you guys, So I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot that people are still like, no, this is must see. I need to be, especially the chat, if we're being honest, the chat is a big thing. Community is very, very important to folks, and they know that they can find that community when they come to Black Gay Stuck at Home. And I think that's beautiful, So coming up this Wednesday for those of you who are listening to this when it's actually taking place, this Wednesday is going to be Jackie Washington Day.
Yeah.
So the question that I wanted to ask you guys is, the next Black Gay and Stuck at Home is going to be dedicated to Jackie's back. What made you all decide to deviate from your normal Friday night to have it on Wednesday night instead? Now, of course, we know that this is when Jackie's back is happening, but you could have easily been like, sorry, y'all, it ain't happening on Jackie Washington Day. Check back with us on Friday when we have it. What made you all decide that Jackie's back was important enough to deviate from your normal day?
So, picking the films is an interesting process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mike will be looking at me like, what Josh be doing the science of like, what it feels like this week we did this, so maybe it feels like we should do this the next time. And But like, I literally be thinking about this in the shower and in the bed at night. I'm like, is this the right next thing? Because you kind of want to give people what they want.
Yeah.
But you also want to like curate an experience that will expose folks to something new, or will sort of like harken up memories of things maybe they didn't think they, had, all these other kinds of things. So like, that's why we didn't run to Moonlight to show Moonlight immediately, or why we aren't running towards some of the more visible films. And so, but we also ask people, what do they want to see, and
I've
they tell
definitely seen
us.
you guys do that, yes.
And they are very clear to tell us what they want to see. So like, for me, like, I don't know, it's been an interesting like curation of the films, but Jackie's Back belongs in that sort of that sphere of queerness that is like reference. It feels like reference material. It's the same way that we as a community like to, talk like why we love our divas, and why we, why we want to talk about Dreamgirls and all these other sort of like films that aren't inherently queer or don't have queer storylines or etc., but are part of our experience and our growing up and our cultivation of who we are as individuals. And so Jackie's Back is in that lane for me because it is campy and it's like a cult sort of classic. It feels underground-ish, but it's built a following up, and that following has been queer folks, to be quite honest, who have kept the life of Jackie Washington Day as a thing going. And so it just made sense to deviate a little bit, not, completely, but just say, okay, we've got this special thing. We should celebrate Jennifer Lewis, and we should celebrate Jackie's Back, and we should, we literally, a second screening was Dirty Laundry with a really riotous performance by Jennifer Lewis,
right.
in that film, and everybody responds to that. So it just seemed like a moment to celebrate a lighter film. We've been doing a mixture of lighter films and sort of heavier content. We also want to sort of make sure that the reflection of films we show is a reflection of the community and the experiences and the sort of feelings that we have. And so we needed a little bit of joy, and Jackie's Back is joyful as hell.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Do you have anything to contribute towards that, Mike?
Jackie Washington Day, come celebrate with us. Josh. See, this is gonna be the question. But I'm like, Josh, answer that, because I love when you tell that story. Josh.
Listen. That's why that was the one question where after Josh answered it, I was like, okay, well, do you have anything to add? He did a great job of answering that. He really did.
I will say it was gonna be. We keep talking about Mahogany. We keep talking about like all these other films that, feel like they are not, like they don't star Black queer folks in leading roles, but like they mean things to little gay boys when we grew up, like Mahogany is a thing for people. So like, why not play around with that? I've had people call me out. I had somebody call me out on Twitter the other day and say, Jackie's Back is not a Black queer film. And I said, I know.
Come on, you better leave it there.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
But it means something to people, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know far more queer people
about their space, though.
Right. I've heard far more queer people talk about that movie than I have straight, though. Like,
exactly.
Like, come on now.
Yep.
Come on now. That's funny. Okay, so my last question for you guys. What does Black Gay Stuck at Home look like on the other side of the pandemic? Because here's the truth. We're not going back to whatever people consider to be normal. I think we can all agree on that, But whatever the new looks like on the other side of this, what does Black Gay Stuck at Home look like when the majority of the people are now back outside living what is as close to what used to be as it is?
I give myself room to say that evolving every day. So we don't have a set plan for once this is over. I think I don't even know when this is going to be over.
Right.
So I don't want to plan for what this looks like. Because balancing my creative and my business brains, is the business side of me understands that at some point, God, universe, whoever that this is, we will have a vaccine. People will be able to go back outside. We'll be able to exist again safely. But the way that it's looking with our leadership and not listening to the medical professionals and the increasing cases, such as Florida today,
Right.
that I don't really see an end in sight anytime soon. So I don't really want to think about like what happens after this is over for us. So I give myself room to let this evolve. But I definitely think this looks like me and Josh finally meeting in person. I think that this looks like
step
us as
one.
well. Right, step one. Me and Josh finally meeting in person. I think step two as well is we can still do this in person gatherings, to continue to do screenings in person and create community events in other areas that doesn't have to necessarily be specific to one city. We can rotate it. But I think people honestly still will want to spend a night with us, to have these screenings, to have people drop in and get to know the history and the lineage of where we come from. I still see that. And as well, I think right now, one of the things that we've been able to do by having extended family, is Patrick, I have called him now extended family, and he's gonna take it, is that it gives us an opportunity as well to uplift and cross promote through our partnerships and the people that have come into the Black Gay Second Home family. So even looking at something, looking at some of the numbers of Noah's Ark, the reunion, what was it called? The Rona episode or the Rona Chronicles? Looking at the numbers that Patrick, Ian Polk, and the cast and the crew were able to do, there's a thirst for this. Like, even if the show gets picked up and it continues, we can do watch parties. We can have them drop in and do stuff. I mean, there's so many places that we still can go with this. I think the community of people that want to see this is still there. I definitely think even getting messages from lesser known queer filmmakers as well, we have an opportunity to lift them up, show their shorts, show their films, because there are still so many great films and web series and different things that are out there, because I don't get to see myself enough, in these projects as a Black gay out actor, that I want to hold space and I want to uplift those as well. So I think this looks like us continuing to do this as long as the pandemic is here, but afterward it still is an opportunity for us to create community, to uplift community, to cross promote, to engage in different ways. So I'm looking forward to what this looks like. But step one, meet Josh.
Yes.
Yes, that sort of has to be the it'd be silly not to figure out how to like actually say hello in person.
Right.
I agree. I think like I think that after the pandemic, something about virtual screening show, like viewings and chats and things, is still intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Especially as someone who's sitting in country ass North Carolina right now, where I know that if if Black Gay Second Home pivoted to being like an in-person only thing, I might not in a rural area have access to that. So like, there's something that's about the accessibility of what we're doing, because you just need a decent internet connection and, to be able to download Zoom on your computer or whatever your device is, to be able to engage with us. And that feels important for folks who are coming from all over the world, particularly from places where they are one of one or one of few. And so, but there is something really interesting about the idea of doing an in-person thing. I was talking to, y'all know Kenyon Pharaoh?
Pharaoh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He and I were chit-chatting the other day about Black Gay Stuck at Home. And I think it was him who had sort of this offering of like, what if you toured Black Prides? And I was like, I think that's a fascinating idea. Because so oftentimes during Black Gay Pride, the critique, at least in DC, where I'm at usually, is
it's everywhere. I know what you're gonna
everybody
say.
just goes to the club. There's no other programming. Da, 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 da. But there is. 9 times out of 10, there
are.
is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's not the programming that people necessarily who, I guess this is a really big generalization, but it's not the same kind of programming that the folks who want to socialize in club the whole time want to also engage with. Like, if you just want to go have your drinks and kiki in club, then that's cool as a celebratory part of it. But like, maybe panel discussions aren't your thing, right?
Right.
So there's an interesting lane of showing film that still feels accessible, and then incorporating some kind of community or social aspect to it, the same way that the chat happens. That can't necessarily happen in the middle of a screening in person. But do you tie that to a happy hour? Do you try and make that a social thing afterward? There's like a lot of just sort of energy and opportunity. So I think it's like a both and. I think it's keeping elements of what works really well about it right now, and then figuring out what the world needs after the pandemic. Because I think what I believe the world might need now may not be what the world needs a year from now. So yeah.
Come on. From a journalistic point of view, I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to be like, good answer. But both of y'all gave really good answers to that. You both gave very good answers to that last question. That's awesome. So, okay, before we go, I wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you all for partnering with the Healing Space podcast. I believe very, very much in Black Gay Stuck at Home. And that's why I was so excited by what you both just said for the last answer, because I think that there's so much that you all can do for the Black queer community and beyond. And I think that this movement that you all have created is very, very necessary. So just honored to be a part in any way. Definitely.
We appreciate you jumping on board.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if people would like to walk with you all on social media, this could be your personal or Black Gay Stuck at Home, how would they walk with you all?
Michael. The social media manager of Black Gay Stuck at Home.
So Misfits. You can walk with us on all our social media channels. You can find us on Instagram @_BGSAH. Slide in the DMs, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want to see. You can find us on www.bgsah.com. You can find me at Michael X Ward on everything.
And I am at Josh Jenks, JENKS, on everything.
Once again, thank you guys so much for an awesome conversation. And Misfits, we will be right back with good news.